But it's not just that every Republican should vote against this. It's a little bit more than that. This is a career-defining vote for every Republican. All of you guys know that thus far in this Congress, the dynamic force in Washington has been the unified House majority. The fact that we resolved in January on concrete details how we were going to go forward together. And it has been impactful over the first several months of Congress. Imagine the decision of Kevin McCarthy and his negotiators to forfeit that. Imagine that. Why would you give that up? Can you imagine doing it in the middle of a negotiating process without at least putting us all in a room to hash out, or representatives from our several groups among the Republican conference who've gotten together before? Can you calculate the cost of surrendering that advantage? But maybe worse. You know, in Washington, I thought the least present quality was courage. But I'm afraid truth tops that. This bill, as others have given you detail on, is chock full of cosmetic things, artificial things, things that actually have been outright lied about, misstated, like the change to IRS funding. In every supposed get for the Republicans, they are chock full of cosmetics. But the hard and cold reality, and again, there's not a member here who can tell you exactly what the increase in the debt will be. We just know the timing that it has been moved out. People said, actually, Kevin McCarthy said the Democrats didn't get anything in this bill. Who do you think wanted the maximum length extension of the debt ceiling and to make it undefined so nobody can pin it down? It may be $6 trillion. I always think it's useful to say, do you know what a trillion is? Do the American people are they capable of evaluating? You know what a trillion is? Somebody told me, I think it's about right, is a trillion is $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. So at $31.4 trillion, you're talking about every one of us walking around with a $250,000 extra mortgage. $4 trillion more will take that up $32,000 over the course of 2 years. And what does the device of 2 years do? It removes the issue from the national conversation during the presidential election to come. How could you more successfully kneecap any Republican president than to take that issue out of his or her hands? That's what's being done. So now let me tell you what has to happen from this point forward. Every one of the people standing here are those people who had the courage and were prepared to be the truthful ones to stand up in January and contest the Speaker election in order to get that agreement that unified the Republicans, that allowed the Republicans to pass a bill with 218 votes when they told us we could never do it. These people did that. There are other men and women of courage and honesty in the Republican conference. Some of them have come out in the last hours. Corey Mills, Nancy Mace, Mike Waltz I just saw, Wesley Hunt. Many more need to emerge. If there is any path to salvaging what we began as a unified conference, if there is any path to that, this bill, if it passes, must pass with less than half of the Republican conference. That is the challenge. And it is no longer, look, we're prepared to stand up and take the slings and the arrows. We're prepared to tell you the truth. We're prepared to act in courage and honesty to the American people. It falls to my other colleagues who have not joined us before. This is the moment now. A colleague's words ring in my ears from a conversation last night. Only in Washington would anybody spend any time quibbling over the $12 billion cut, or is it maybe $20 billion, or is it fake entirely because you're holding $22 billion of COVID money and new funds at Commerce Department to use to repurpose for other spending, all that crap. What the American people all get. Now look, there's some people who are, I understand they're on the left, they think debt and spending is the way to go forever. Most Americans, 60% of them, right, it was the AP poll. 60% said they wanted cuts to spending in conjunction with changing the debt ceiling. Because they all know it is on a cataclysmic, unsustainable path. And so what they know is, look, they didn't want our bill, right? The $1.5 trillion increase, let's be honest about it. They go, why would you do that? Because that bill had an articulable path that we embarked on. That would take many phases, by the way, but we could eventually turn this place and get to back to a politics of sanity. Not this. The only thing we get here is tokenism, a token, artificial, fake, nothing benefits, and you don't even need to talk that long as I have to Americans for them to understand $4 or $6 trillion in debt growth. That is insane. So, to my colleagues in the Republican conference, you have a few hours to make up your mind. You are the key to our being able to reacquire the unity. Now, it's going to take some steps, by the way, because the leadership decision to forfeit that is going to have to be dealt with.